Okay. So it looks like we're going to have a part one and a part two of this video. So maybe that's a good thing. All right. So Dr. Pam, I'm going to let you take it away. So glad to have you with us, and we look forward to hearing from you today.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's great to be with you guys. I see so many familiar faces. Hey, I see Lisa Marie. Hi, Paul. Hey, glad that y'all are here. We're just going to have a nice conversation about things that kind of make you go, when people come into your room, or even make you go, why do I do those things? What is going on inside of my head? Um, and it's like, remember, like, Paul used to say in the Bible, how come I do the things that I don't want to do, and I never do the things that I really want to do, should do? Right. Okay. So I don't know. He could have been having ADHD. I don't know. But anyway, so we're just going to have a nice conversation. Hopefully, there are going to be some opportunities for you guys in chat to respond to some things, some questions, so everybody can kind of have a little bit of insight from everybody else about some of the things that we're talking about. I want to make sure that this is open to you guys asking those questions. You're going to be taking in some information, but like many of you guys know, if you've worked with either young children that are very active, or even just kind of a little flighty, or adults even, you have met one person with an executive function disorder, if you will, a condition, a whatever. They're just neurodivergent. Their brains just work differently. And that's not good, bad, or indifferent. But like we'll find out in our society, it's kind of an impediment because the world doesn't groove like they want to groove. So they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole a lot of times. So we need to be kind and compassionate and let them know, of course, always strength focused. What it is that they can do is going to be the thing that you want to focus on. Like Carrie said, I'm doing testing assessments for ADHD. And the test that I'm using has indicators that tip up on autism. I don't diagnose, I don't do autism, but I will refer those out because ADHD and autism spectrum are executive function differences. So we're going to talk about executive functioning here first. This is that big umbrella that covers a lot of different things. So let me take a sec. Let me share my screen with you guys. Fingers crossed that tech works the way tech is supposed to work. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, stop. All right, we're just going to get back up here. All right. So at the very beginning here, we're just going to be talking about some of the things that I think we're going to talk about. Identify some elements of executive functioning. What does that mean? What does that involve? What are we looking at? Discover neurodivergent nature of the ADHD traits, and discover ways to help all of us that may have some divergent, not neurotypical kind of behaviors happening here. All right, I'm going to start off with this little video. You're going to have to listen hard. This young lady talks really fast. So you're going to have to listen up. And if you need me to play it again, I will do this. This is a comparison between ADHD and autism. Okay, here we go.
ADHD, autism, thank you both for being here. Let's start off with social cues. You both struggle to understand them, right? Yes, but for me, it's due to a lack of attention and focus, whereas I don't intuitively understand social cues. But we have similar neurodivergent communication patterns. Yeah, like info dumping and connecting over shared interests. Okay, how about your day-to-day life? Well, I love unfamiliarity and new experiences. And that is my worst nightmare. I love familiarity and routines. But with that, we both share difficulty with switching tasks. And does that affect how you make your schedules and routines? Well, I like to carefully plan things ahead of time. And I have time blindness, so even if planned perfectly, I really struggle with punctuality.
Okay.
ADHD.
So what did y'all think? That thumbs up. Let's do a little bit of those reactions and stuff like that. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What did you think about her description of ADHD and autism? Yeah. I mean, she could be all over the page. She's probably walked through your clinic door, coming in. But it is important that they share certain traits, ADHD and autism, because of that executive function umbrella. But then there are certain differences. I love it when she says, I, carefully, I like spontaneity, and autism is going, that's my worst nightmare. No, it has to be a certain way. So people are different and they do things to function and get their needs met throughout their life doing certain things. All right, so here's executive functioning. Okay, an unstimulated prefrontal cortex, that's what we're talking about. There's not enough stimulation up here to keep the attention up. So we're talking working memory. Okay, what am I doing right now? Cognitive flexibility, that inhibition control. So that's, can I inhibit my impulses or do I just go, right? Planning, reasoning, problem solving, that self-control, that internal locus of control isn't always there, and attentional control. Now, some of you guys may be thinking, well, okay, self-control, I'm dealing with children and they're very impulsive and things like that. Yeah, developmentally, that's kind of where they're supposed to be. That's why we have to be very careful about the diagnosis of things, because you have to take into account that developmental age, stage, experience, things like that with anybody. So just kind of keep that in mind. So just because you have an active 4-year-old doesn't mean that they're on ADHD or autism spectrum of some sort. Just have to think about executive function. All right. So here's Calvin and Hobbes. Okay. Do you have an idea? Let's see, I can't read it. Do you have an idea for the project? No, I'm waiting for inspiration. You can't turn on and off creativity. You've got to be in the right mood. What mood is that? Last minute panic. So raise your hands. Are you like last minuters? Wait until you get that adrenaline rush and then you can crank stuff out and it's brilliant, right? But going up until that, you have this massive panic and it sets you on edge. This has to do with a startup. How do you start things, initiate things? All right. So what is the executive functioning? Okay, so let's take a deeper dive into those things that I just listed out. What kind of working memory? Okay, it's reading, taking notes, having a conversation. It's what's happening right now. So working memory problems has to do with can I remember those 3-stage instructions? Come in, take my shoes off, wash my hands, sit at the table. Come in, take my shoes off, go sit at the table. Okay. There's that working memory. What am I doing right now? There's a little bit of a hiccup there. Cognitive flexibility, it refers to how the brain shifts. Okay. How quickly can it shift? And you guys do know that it's a myth that we can multitask, right? We can't. It just depends on how quickly our brain toggles back and forth. And if it tries to toggle too much, then you forget this other thing that you were doing while you're doing all this other stuff. And then you forget the first thing that you were doing. Okay. So when we're looking at assessments and looking at things like that, we're looking at that shift. How can they shift? What is happening in their brain? Can they move and change gears? Okay. They're often very creative. Yes, do we agree? Imaginative, they connect the dots in totally different ways, which is one of the strengths of the folks with different kind of brain patterns that we've got going on. The inhibition control is the ability to manage our thoughts, that emotion, the actions, the behavioral control. So the inhibition control is that ready, shoot, aim. Instead of ready, aim, shoot, just, okay. Behavioral control. Can you stay silent when you really, really, really want to say something? And you know, the kids, that if it's in their head, it's out their mouth. That has to do with their inability to inhibit their speech, to stop, take a pause, or say, oh, if I do this, this could end badly for me. All right. We've got adults that are like that. It's like, here, hold my drink while they do something kind of bizarre. Okay. And then the interference control, focusing on something that needs attention and ignoring whatever doesn't need attention. So this is the filter. So sometimes our folks that have ADHD traits, they have faulty filters. They can't filter out all this external stuff, and they're paying attention to everything, except maybe when they're playing video games. And they're totally focused on the video games and tuning everything out when you call their name or something, they can't hear, you know, so it's that all or nothing kind of filter that they have. Kind of gets in the way, and there are brain things that are happening there that, you know, make that a thing. All right, planning, mapping out a series of actions. Do y'all have trouble planning something? Like you're working on a project and you've got a deadline here, and then you have multiple steps here, having trouble with that reverse planning, saying, okay, I need to start here. Getting started is the big thing. You got to at least start something. And then having to reverse plan these different stages so you meet this deadline. That's really, really difficult. Reasoning, how to use your stored knowledge. So that stored knowledge, you've got to have time on the planet, right? For you to be able to build on this knowledge base. Break down something complicated because, oh, I've done this before. Okay, I've come in and I've set the table before, and the plate goes down and the knife, fork, spoon, they all go in the right place. I can do it because I've done it before, instead of leaving out a fork or leaving out a spoon. Okay, so they're building on that. Problem solving, how to overcome obstacles, self-control, management of that internal thought and external behaviors. So internal thoughts, oh man, I really want to be outside right now. It's a beautiful day, you know, and that is all consuming, and it's a thought that is just repeating itself. And then external behaviors, I'm gonna go to the door, I'm gonna burst out the door, I'm gonna escape out the door because I really want to go outside. And again, it's none of that inhibition isn't there. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a brain break. Carrie, will you put in the chat? I'd like to know 3 words that you guys can think of that describes ADHD. Okay, how about that? He's such a Okay. So, Carrie, what are some things? I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so we can kind of see each other face to face, chat.
Yeah,
So,
we've got a lot of good ones here. So we have fast thinkers, fast talkers, lots of movement, destructive, energetic, creative, hyper, funny, busy, brain fog, bouncing around, talking fast, very creative, squirrel moment, difficulty focusing on task, moving from activity to activity, creative thinkers, spontaneous, energetic, joy in their own head, distracted, placid, and overwhelmed.
all right. Woo! That's a pretty big list, right? There are lots of these traits and characteristics. What I heard a lot of you say is it has to do with activity. Okay, the ADHD activity level, the level of increased, you know, just going like you're being run with a motor, you know, those sorts of things. Carrie, was there anything in there that had to do with flightiness or spacey or anything like that?
We did have brain fog.
Okay. Yeah, you can have brain fog, right? Brain fog happens when, let's see, you're pregnant. Brain fog happens if you don't get good sleep, if you're menopausal. Yeah, there are lots of times for the brain fog too. But yeah, that's an uncomfortable feeling. Can you imagine having brain fog all the time? Yeah, it's exhausting because you always have to go back and recheck and recheck and recheck. And what are you doing? What have I done? To make sure that you keep up with things. Okay. So let me just ask some questions here real quick before we dive back in. So if you, Carrie, you can help me out. If you guys would give a reaction or raise your hand or something like that, let me know if you have a specific question or challenge regarding people with executive function differences in any of those categories, working memory, inhibition control, anything like that. Yeah, Megan Young, sure. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry, I was just agreeing. I was
Oh,
just saying, yes, I do. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you had somebody or experiencing yourself, because we're all friends here. We can self disclose.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I said the brain fog one, and yes, I think that that has been something just hormonally as I've gotten older that I've dealt with is just the brain fog and feeling like, wait, what did I do? Like the brain elasticity is not what it used to be. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that brain plasticity because the brain is a wonderful thing. It's growing and it's learning and it's shifting all the time. So even as you're working on something maybe that you've done before that you're familiar with, the brain is still creating those synapses. And true, as you get older, the goes a little bit slower, but the brain is always learning new pathways to do things. So, which is fabulous, wonderfully created. I mean, only a powerful God could think this up, right? I do have a question though, however, because our human brain, it is so slow in developing. You might even think, yeah, we're the only prey species on the earth that has 25 years to take to mature this up here. So it takes quite a while before this frontal lobe, the thought thinking, really becomes kind of effective and more efficient, let me say, than other things, right? So it takes a while for all this stuff to kind of even out just a bit. Okay. Lainey, you
Okay.
raise your hand.
Yes, I specifically wanted to come because I'm noticing clients that don't necessarily fit the full probably ADHD, but the ADD. And they come in saying ADHD. They also have a lot of complex trauma. And so trying to kind of navigate when it's not the super obvious hyperactivity, but there's definitely the working like memory recall, concentration, particularly in the moment. You ask a question, and it's deer in headlights. They can't recall what they were just thinking. And thus that's creating interpersonal issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of those things that when you're talking to somebody, that's why I wanted to do this executive function stuff first, this big umbrella, because there are going to be people that don't check all the boxes for a diagnosis for ADHD, but they're still struggling. There is something going on in there with their executive function that is causing them challenges. So you said trauma, right? Trauma does a number on your head, in your body, everywhere. We want to rule out the anxiety and depression because anxiety and depression act and look like and smell like ADHD. So we got to figure out what is it exactly? What is happening there? And with the trauma responses, it would probably make perfect sense for them to kind of check out a little bit, right? When things start getting rough, because that's a functional behavior that they've learned from dealing with whatever it was they were dealing with. So of course, they may just check out for a little bit. And then what did you say? What did you ask? I wasn't quite there with you, right? Because it keeps them safe. It's protective. So some of the behaviors that we see make perfect sense in the context that they're bringing to you. But as professionals, I want you guys to be aware that there's underneath stuff. That when we're talking about executive function, things that may be a little bit sketchy, maybe work on some things, because the brain, the more you practice things, the more fluid it becomes. Those sorts. Want you to not be so quick to label, because labels are for jars of jelly and not for people.
Well,
Now,
I also noticed that they come in labeled or labeled self-labeling,
self-label,
right? And so
right?
how to discern, okay, you went and told your doctor I'm ADHD, and so you got a prescription, but it doesn't sound like there was an evaluation, there was assessment, right? So I don't really know what's going on there. Or they've watched a TikTok, and so they're saying ADHD. We definitely have concentration issues, right? But yeah, for me to kind of know, yes, this is at my limit and not my right wheelhouse, or it is, but you're calling it something
Right,
else.
you're calling it something else. Yeah, I love it when people come in after a diagnosis from Dr. Google and they know absolutely for sure that they have this thing or that thing or whatever. That's why as professionals you have to take a step back, reframe, re calibrate their thinking a little bit, so that they think of things in just a different way instead of this self-labeling, because it's comforting to have a label because it explains stuff. If I have a label for something, then that's what it is. And that's not always the case. So we're going to get into a little bit more about ADHD itself and some of the traits and some of the characteristics that we can look for. But I do want you to know that even though you're going through the DSM and you're trying to check all those boxes and things, if they're not checked, shift over to this executive function list that we just talked about and say, oh, okay, working memory, maybe a problem. Okay, maybe they can't inhibit back and forth doing something, so put it in that framework, that kind of template to overlay things, because all we're trying to do is find patterns and make meaning. It's what our brain does.
Dr. Pam,
Yes.
also, kind of along those lines, someone here is asking, Rebecca is asking in the chat, do people with executive functioning issues have sensory issues, such as individuals with autism?
Sure. There are lots of things that walk alongside with lots of things all the time. What I've found is that if you have emotionally sensitive people that are just right there on the edge and they're emotionally sensitive, they have a tendency to be sensorially sensitive as well. Okay, that just has to do with kind of their makeup. And it may be sensory things for specific elements. But yeah, that's one thing. If there are some sensory things, then refer those folks out to somebody who can do, like an OT, who can do some of that sensory testing to see whether it's, just maybe not necessarily sensory processing disorder, because that's a big thing. A lot of times there's just sensory sensitivity, and a lot of your clients will be sensory sensitive. Honestly, how many of y'all have textures and things that you just would like to avoid? Okay. Self-disclosure, aluminum foil. No, I don't like touching aluminum foil. It does really weird things to my teeth. I do not know how. I have no idea what's going on. It's just weird. Can I touch it? Yes. Would I rather not? Absolutely. Right. So there are things that we have as adults that, we just don't like. So think about a child that's only been on the planet for 7 years. And there is some texture, something that they put in their mouth, spinach, pudding, chips, whatever that they don't really like, then they're going to try to avoid it. Right. So sensory stuff is all around us, and oftentimes it's auditory. There, remember, we got a filter problem, right? We can't filter out all of this other stuff that's going on around us, and we get overwhelmed. True. All right. So any other questions, Carrie? What you got?
Yes, and I'm going to combine these because I think they're all kind of related together. Caitlin and also another are asking about just motivation to try to build the skills, or how do we help someone slow down and see some of these consequences. I can think of even a person that I worked with in my practice where I'm asking a question, but the question I'm asking, they don't answer. It's a totally different topic, different subject. They've shot off somewhere else. And then I'll bring them back. Can we notice what's happening on the inside of you? They answer a different question, you know, and we've had to keep coming back, like say, for example, to the body. So, and if this is something you're going to cover later on in the presentation, that's fine. But just motivation to try to build these skills. How do we help someone slow down, see consequences?
So helping somebody slow down, that is a work in progress every day. Because sometimes it's like, I do not want to talk about it, so I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go down this rabbit hole. And I may think I'm answering the question, but I'm not. So as a professional, yeah, bring it back. And you can even reflect back to them. This is really hard for you to answer. You're having a hard time trying to figure out how and what it looks like when I'm asking you about something in your body. Okay. And then just use your tone, use your cadence as well to slow them down a little bit. I use a sound protocol, safe and sound protocol that works to tune safety in. So I will have them listen to some filtered music for a little bit, and you can see them visibly relax a little bit because they're always like this, right? You know, the shoulders are up and they're right. So they need to relax so that it is not so imperative that they keep talking and filling the silence with chatter. And that's anxiety, is it not? Right? It may not be something that we can tag into this ADHD box or whatever, but it's that anxiety. And just reflect back to them. Gosh, this is making you, feel a little certain way, right? And then you can talk about that and then go through the back door to get them to talk about what's inside. Make sense? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen back. We've got some more stuff that we want to talk about that may answer questions or may bring up more questions, which is lovely too. I like that too. All right, let me share my screen again. Good. Okay. All right. So what is this thing? Okay, we've talked about executive function, and under this executive function thing, you have ADHD and autism. Okay, so ADHD is in here. It's a persistent pattern of inattention or hyperactivity, impulsivity that interferes with functioning. Okay, at least two different areas. Oftentimes it's home and school, maybe homeschool church, maybe homeschool church at the dojo for Taekwondo. The more information in context you can get, the more information you're going to have to inform whatever kind of therapy you're going to be doing with them. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder difference. They're not neurotypical that individuals are born with. Okay. The traits typically appear before they're 12. That's the DSM. But what we're finding now, and some of you guys can chime in on this, sometimes we're getting adults in here that have not had a diagnosis as a kid of ADHD, but now these traits are getting in the way. They are asked to do a job and their capacity cannot meet the skill needs of that job. So it's causing them problems, causing them relationship problems, causing them to skip jobs and jobs and jobs. And because maybe the jobs aren't a good fit for them. But this is what I've done. This is what I do. I'm just going to go into this job instead of really finding a fit that says, maybe I need a job that's outside and we're working all the time outside. I don't know. Brains are simply different. Co-occurring features. Oftentimes there are developmental delays, delays in speech, maybe social development for sure, because we know the domains of development, the physical, the cognitive, the language, the social, emotional. Social and emotional is always lagging behind. It's because it has so much to do. So that social emotional piece is a piece that really ticks up, because these folks oftentimes are a little bit immature. They're having a hard time managing emotions and stuff, and being able to have those boundaries with friends. Talk about impulsivity. Our people with traits of ADHD oftentimes are space invaders. Do you know what I mean by that? They lean on each other, or they get too close when they're talking. They come too close. They get into your boundaries a little bit, and you have to go, whoa, back up a little bit. They don't mean to be rude or whatever, but they just don't have those social skill boundary things to know that I'm getting too close, I'm talking too loud. By me petting your hair and stuff like that, that's bothering you. Okay. So again, social skills. And they also may have difficulty managing thoughts, emotions, actions. Okay. Let me see if I can. Oh, I'm not able to advance. Hold on. All right. Bear with me. Technology, technology. Oh, stop sharing my screen. What's happening? Carrie, I think the tech gremlin is alive and well.
Agreed. Something is going on out there. Will it let you screen share again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting it. I couldn't advance my slide. Okay. All right, let's see if this works. Otherwise, you're going to get my raw version of my slides. Oh, there we go. Bingo. Have you guys noticed the squirrels on the slides? Okay, just aren't they cute? They're everywhere. And I don't mean to be demeaning. Okay, I don't want anybody to, think, squirrel moments are a bad thing, but sometimes our little squirrels are just all over the place and they appear everywhere. All right, so ADHD, it affects boys and girls. Okay, it's not gender specific. Oftentimes we see it diagnosed more in boys because they present with that high energy thing, but we're going to talk about the differences here. There's possible academic difficulty. It is not that they are dumb. It is not that they don't learn. It is probably, maybe, possibly that they turn in their test and they simply have forgotten to turn it over and complete the backside of the test. Right? Parts of the brain involved in that function, executive functioning, tend to be smaller, later to develop, a little less active. Okay. I put a link in here to the Amen Clinic, where they have slides of brains, just where all this activity is going on in the brain. And once you see it, you go, oh, I get it. Okay, so check out that website there. Here are some stats. Black children, white children were diagnosed more, about 12%. American Indian, Alaska Native, and Hispanic children, a little bit less, 10%. And then Asian children, 4%. I don't know if that means anything. I'm not sure what that means, but there are some statistics there. Whether or not we're looking for it more or discounting it more in other populations, I don't know. Those were just some stats. Y'all can noodle on that. All right. Factors that might increase chances of developing ADHD. Okay, hold on. Developing. Pam, I thought you said we're born with this stuff. Yeah, okay. But family history plays a part. It's genetic. Sometimes it trots in families, sometimes it gallops, through families, right? Just having one parent, one removed, that has it. Chances are pretty good if you remember your Punnett squares when you were doing, the biology and stuff like that. It passes on. Prenatal or childhood exposure to something in the environment, those teratogens, hormones, pesticides, I don't know, you name it, too much greenhouse gases, whatever. Prenatal exposure to alcohol and tobacco. We know from the jump that stuff is low birth weight babies, have trouble developing. If these things happen at certain developmental periods while the baby is growing in utero, it's going to affect certain systems. That's just how we grow. Trauma or injury to the brain, of course, premature birth, low birth weight, and epigenetics. Okay, so epigenetic, this is my new thing. Epigenetics is the way our body functions to survive. Either a gene is turned on or turned off. Okay, based on biology, based on environmental factors, our body is wonderfully and beautifully created because it needs to survive. So some of these things turn on, turn off. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. Okay. All right. Now, there are different types of ADHD. I am just talking about like 2 types right here. The link to the Amen Clinic will talk about 7. Okay. So I'm just going to be talking about the 2 that I test for. Predominantly hyperactive impulsive. Okay, looks like that little guy over there. Car and pens and pencils and cell phone and all that kind of thing. Squirms around. And then the combined type has at least 6 traits of this inattention and at least 6 traits of hyperactivity. Now, where it comes in, and we have to watch very carefully, that predominantly inattentive type, those are the ones that fly under the radar. Those are the ones that are kind of spacey. They never finish a job. They get distracted. They're well aware of what everybody else is doing, but so far as what they're doing, they lose their place. Okay, so those are the predominantly inattentive ones. Does this look familiar? Oh, yes, we've had a whole hatching of squirrels. Yes, and the squirrels get worse and worse and worse as this flow chart goes. Can you please do this thing? Okay. Did you do the thing? Oh, sorry, I forgot. I got distracted. Exasperation, defensive. Well, you didn't. I told you. Oh, I'm such a bad person, right? So then you have that guilt and shame going on. Anybody kind of familiar with this little flow chart for yourselves? Yeah? Okay. So again, everything kind of compounds itself. And again, this has to do with working memory, executive function stuff. It has to do with initiating of something. But I'm right here and I just can't shift to start something. And remember that Calvin and Hobbes cartoon? I will get to it when my feet are on fire and there's going to be death threats and everything else. So I will get to it now. Okay. Not really optimal, but it ends up being functional for some people. So there you have it. All right. So ADHD in girls. This is the inattentive oftentimes. Now, our little girls, just the research is still coming in on how ADHD affects their young ladies differently than our little boys. They read far ahead. They may fail to do the homework question, hours working on math homework, but they forget to turn it in. Okay, so there is sometimes this performance paralysis. They want to be perfect. It needs to be perfect. I'm going to erase this math problem until it's just lined up just so. And then they've initiated it, but there's no terminus. They haven't turned it in. They sit quietly in class, but they're doodling and they're twirling their hair. Making and keeping friends. Social and emotional stuff right here. They have a hard time keeping friends because socially they just can't keep up and they may be a little bit immature. Lost in their own thoughts and sometimes called a chatterbox. Because that impulse control is not there to close your mouth. Stop. Stop. Okay. Caregivers often make connections, with these young ladies, but they're not causing a problem in class. So oftentimes they get overlooked. Spend extra time. We talked about this. Look at that third bullet. Creating conflict to deflect attention from any problems they're having. You got your drama queens. Oh, everything's a crisis. And look at what they did. And oh, did you hear what that person did without looking what they did? So they create and deflect drama and confusion so that nobody is looking at what they're maybe not doing. Okay. And honestly, this isn't just girls. Our guys do it too. Do you have some guys that are kind of dramatic? Deflect, deflect, deflect. Make sure that they work on their stuff repeatedly, make it perfect. Again, I don't know why, but oftentimes this is part of that routine, that executive function thing, this pattern that they have learned to be successful. And our ADHD in boys, difficulty with self-directed talk, hyper-focus on things that are interesting. Absolutely. Do we pay attention to things that we're interested in and we like doing? Are we as interested in doing, I don't know, Excel spreadsheets? Not so much. Do we have to? Yeah. Okay. Weak episodic memory. They walk into a room. Okay, again, talking about that brain fog. You walk into a room and you forget what you went in there for. Or you forget where you put your keys. Okay, so I'm not going to have you self-disclose or anything, but how many of y'all have found your car keys in the freezer? Honest. Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm not alone. You're my people. Yes. And then you're not exactly sure how they got there. And I blame gremlins, but there you go. Poor future thinking skills. Again, if I do this, what could happen? Situational awareness. Not aware of where my keys are. Not aware of where I am in space. Hanging up a picture, standing on a stool, and then stepping back to admire your work. And you fall 3 feet. Yep, that happens. Poor perspective taking. Putting the trouble in a size that's realistic. Again, that drama. Difficulty with unexpected change. Shifting. Ask any of our teachers. Some of our young children have a hard time shifting without a lot of preemptive kind of things. Big emotions. Okay. Rejection response euphoria. They love the attention and they love it, but they feel it if they're not getting all that they need from being filled up. Okay. Social immaturity. All right. So often struggle in the classroom. Yeah. Tend to have more accidents and injuries. Stepping back to admire their work. Poor self-esteem. Is this like a no duh? After all of this stuff we're talking about, they miss this, miss that, can't do that, whatever. All of these negative things are pounding on them. And of course, gosh, I can't do this. So what our challenge is, you guys, as professionals, is to be strength focused. What can they do? Let's not dwell on what they cannot do. What can they do? And use that as a springboard to help bolster some of these executive functions that might be a little bit sketchy. Being accepted by their peers. This is a huge one. Lots of children, lots of adolescents come into my place and they are sad because they do not have friends. They do not know how to keep friends. They're not sure whether their friends actually like them. Or if a friend decides to go play with another friend and not that person, then it's all or nothing. Then they don't like me. Fine, I'm not your best friend either. Okay. When it's just a matter of play choice. And increased risk of abuse, alcohol, drug, substance abuse, and delinquent behavior. All right. So these are some words here. Okay. The words that you listed earlier, hyperactive, distractible, all of those things. Add these words to your list. Passionate, strategic, adaptable, oftentimes. Charismatic. Memorable. Oh, everybody remembers this kid or this person, right? They're brave. They're enthusiastic. They're very unique. Yes, please. I would rather have a unique person than a cookie cutter of everybody else. It's kind of dull and boring. Talkative for sure. Imaginative. All right. Remember at the top of our time together, they connect dots a little bit differently in a way that nobody else would think about connecting dots. Yeah, bring them on. That is great. That is a wonderful skill. Humorous, and I would hope that they would be authentic. What we hope in our therapeutic practice is for our clients to be authentic with themselves, accepting, loving themselves for who they are, being able to say, not as just a defeatist attitude, this is the way I am, so, love it or lump it, but this is the way I am. This is kind of what I do. This is how I work. This is how I roll. So if you understand that, then we can adapt together to be able to find a way forward. So that authenticity is huge. It takes a while. It takes a while to get there. All right, who is this guy? Everybody know this guy? Mr. Albert Einstein. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. Square peg, round hole, right? Do you think Albert Einstein had traits and characteristics of executive functioning problems, difficulties, ADHD? Absolutely. Right? Because he was an outside the box thinker, which is, thank God he was, right? So that is a gifting. So we need to shift these things as gifts. All right. So superpowers, I'm just going to jot through these real quick like. We want to shift it to that strength-based focus. Give praise and rewards when rules are followed. Catch them being good whenever somebody is achieving something. It doesn't have to be candy and streamers and stuff, but just a good, hey, I noticed. Give practical directions and commands. Don't let your anxiety infect them because you're shooting about 5 directions at them at one time. I can't remember that. I don't know anybody that can without making notes. Post-it notes are our friends. We like post-it notes. Visual cues for routines, reminders, healthy habits. Yes, please. How's the sleep? How is the self-care? How are all these things coming together to make a well-rounded person? Healthy habits. When was the last time you went to the doctor for a checkup? I ask each of my new clients that every time. So when was the last time you had a checkup? Because we need to rule out physical stuff before we get to all this up here. Adequate fluids. Drinking water. I know. I have to do that. Drink more water. I need an accountability partner for that. Develop routines. Okay. Use consistent consequences, positive or not so positive. When I do this, then this happens. When I finish that dreaded spreadsheet, then I get to go outside and walk around the building. Okay, so when, then. Logical consequences. Hate that sometimes. But here's the thing. The consequence is known in advance. Everybody knows if this doesn't happen, then this will. And it's their choice, right? And it's to discourage unwanted behavior, but it has to be consistent. And the punishment has to fit the crime. And it's not anything just real, thumb screws and, putting anybody on the rack. It has to be logical. Relationships, strong social skills, this is a biggie. Help those social skills grow and develop. And you're going to have partners doing that. Everybody is going to have to learn how to play back and forth. So don't roll your eyes at this person when they come up to you and ask you something. Turn around and be receptive to them so that you can be their mirror. So we will learn. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave you with this one. All right. Y'all take a breath. I know this has been hard, and I know lots and lots of slides. I've done lots and lots of talking. But I wanted to give you some information. So I want to leave you with this one because this is fun. Here we go.
Apartment 2B.
2B.
All right. There.
Have you ever gone outside into the mud? Go through daylight savings without changing policy. Really did. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just yeah, just like Michael Phelps. Well, Jim.
Dr. Pam, it looks like we are getting some spotty sound here on the video, but we are seeing it.
Hey, I'm Penn, and that was.
There we go. All right. Could everybody hear that just fine?
No, I think it was really spotty. Someone said their laptop was having ADHD. It was coming through in bits and pieces.
In bits and pieces. Oh dear.
But we saw it. We got the gist
Okay.
of
And
it
you
there.
read the subtitles
Yes.
and things. Okay. So everything that we just talked about was kind of summarized in that video. You have lots of positive characteristics. You have things that can get in the way a little bit. While we're doing the introductions and do the rest of our stuff, I'm going to put that URL in here so you guys can look it up and follow along with. I'll follow along with him because he's got some other good stuff too. Okay. Any other questions? Because my time is up. What didn't I cover?
You did so great, and so many people were saying thank you, and a couple had to jump off a little bit early for other things. But there was something back when you were in another part of the presentation, there was a question that came through that I wanted to circle back to. And I think this is when you were talking about someone in a classroom or something might be pointing to other people having issues to sort of deflect off of themselves. And if I'm saying that incorrectly, I think it was Nicole that had the question. If you're still here and you want to unmute, you can if you want to expound on that. But the question was, is that premeditated and intentional or not?
Oh gosh, I would think it's functional. It's probably something that they've learned. Um, if I point a finger at somebody else and say, "Oh, what they're doing is worse than what I'm doing," then ignore me and let me go. Um, I have I have twin grandsons. They just graduated from high school. And they're affectionately called Crash and Dash. And when they were little, Crash would look at Dash and say, look what he's doing, but me no do it. It was a phrase for months. That was a phrase. So that was a deflect, deflect, deflect. Look at him, but don't look at me because look at him, he's taking his diaper off, but don't look at me because I don't have a diaper on either, but just look at him. Right. So oftentimes it's a functional thing. With young children, I am not so sure about premeditation on a lot of stuff. They don't wake up in the morning deciding that they're going to make their teacher's life miserable. I don't think they premeditate that stuff. So is that helpful?
Yes, thank you. And someone had also asked about the slides. Is that something that you will be sharing with the group or not?
Sure, I can.
Okay, great. And if you want to send it to me, I can send it out in the follow-up email that we send to everybody. And so I am going to post again. I posted a couple of times, but I'll post it again in the chat here, a digital sign in for you. And so if you'll do that, also Dr. Pam's information is in the chat as well. If you would like to reach out to her for additional questions, or if you want to have her assess some of your clients. I know I've sent your information to a variety of people to that are looking like, hey, do I have this? Do I not? That really just want a formal assessment. And so she's great for that as well.
Assessments, professional development, training.
Yes.
Talk to people all the time about a variety of different things.
Yes.
Y'all, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And again, reach out to me if you have any additional questions.
Missing pieces and develop those as well. So thank you for welcoming me today. It was really nice to be here, and thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, multidisciplinary, that's where our mind goes.
Yeah.
We can't be all things to all people, and we have to know what our lane is. So if other people can augment and surround the person with this scope of care, that's awesome.
Right. I'm with you 100%. I appreciate your mention of the OTs and the sensory, just kind of all of it, right? Filling in those gaps and partnering together for sure.
So great to have a team approach. I'm so glad that you came, Chris. So good to have
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm hoping to make it to Denton next month.
Great. We hope to see you. And next we have Alejandra Ramirez.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm a licensed I'm a licensed master social worker. I get a little bit intimidated with public speaking, but I am so happy to be here. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Rinn. I just started recently with a private practice part-time. It's called Infinite Hope Counseling. I have experience with children and adolescents for about 10 years working in public schools. And so I barely started seeing teenagers, 14 and up, but I'm also seeing adults. I have experience with women and children affected by domestic violence. And my heart really is in that population, but I love helping people also process childhood emotional wounds and family conflict of origin. And also like just being able to meet people where they're at with challenges related to race, culture, and ethnicity. I'm a bilingual therapist, so I also love working with that population, especially with things that have been going on and like the fear surrounding that community right now. I provide virtual services only right now, and we hope to be able to provide some in-person sessions in the summer. So yeah, nice to meet you. That was kind of quick and short, but I hope to meet everyone in person in Denton.
Great. So glad that you got to make it. And be sure to go in the Facebook group if you haven't already, because I do know that there was a couple of posts recently, people looking for bilingual counselors. So make sure you put your info in there. Next, we
Yes,
have
thank you.
Grace Bennett.
Yeah, I'm Grace. I'm an LPC associate. I'm also with the Healing Counseling Center in McKinney Prosper area, same as Patricia. I am trained in ERP. I do DBT, and I work with primarily kids and adolescents, but I do see adults as well. I've been in the mental health field for about 4 years now. Most of my experience was in community mental health, working with kids and adolescents. So that was pretty big population to work with. When I got my license back in October last year, so haven't been it too long, but I'm getting more experience. We do take a couple of insurances at Healing Counseling Center, so if you have any clients that need counseling for their kiddos, or sometimes I work with parents too, just to help them with their kiddos' counseling process. And yeah.
Thanks so much for being there. Next is Megan Yan.
Hey everybody. So thank you, Dr. Rinn, for the presentation. I am an LCSWS, a registered play therapist. I provide trauma-focused mental health services to children, adolescents, and adults. I'm the owner of Untying Knots Counseling in Forney, Texas. I'm trained in TFCBT, EMDR, play therapy, sand tray, and I just use a variety of integrative techniques to meet people where they're at. I work with a lot of kiddos struggling with ADHD and trying to support parents through the resistance of, and stigma of having children with ADHD. Also work with a lot of adults that are just now kind of figuring out, hey, like I think I have ADHD. And personally myself, kind of struggling with that. So I've experienced in a lot of different settings, inpatient, outpatient, and intake, nonprofit, and been in the private practice world since 2021. So thank you again.
Next is Lori Van.
Hello, I'm Lori Van, founder of Van Wellness Group, a holistic approach to your success, and also the Institute for Non-Suicidal Self-Injury. There's always a lot going on. So we have several counselors. We see ages 3 and up. We accept insurance. We have EMDR. Guided imagery, music therapy, and then the holistic suite, we offer different types of sound baths, red light therapy sound bath, and then starry night sound baths. We just added Dr. Rachel Sims to Monday nights with 9D breath work. We have a registered dietitian trained in functional medicine and a Reiki master. So we are truly holistic and providing a whole mind body approach to treatment. We do have 3 different events coming up. The one behind me is the level 1 training. I'm giving that again because I didn't get recorded the first time properly. So my loss, your gain. Level 1 marketing, and that will be next week on the 17th. And then level 2 marketing, which is even deeper dive, is going to be on the 24th. And then on May 9th in our office in Coppell, Zarna and I are going to do a 2-hour CEU called Gut Feelings, talking about the mind-body connection and deep diving more into understanding the gut microbiome and the role of all of that in trying to keep our clients healthy, and maybe where medication doesn't have to be the first game plan and is more of the let's look at other options first kind of situation. And there'll be some food with it. So that's me. If you need to reach out, just go Lori Van on Facebook. I'm all over the flippin' place. So thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Next we have Robert Delahunt.
Hey everyone. First of all, I want to just express my apologies for the flurry of emails, but also the gratitude for a lot of you who replied. Basically, I was in practicum for my master's degree, and it just like disappeared.
Ashley listening in Kentucky. My
Maybe
husband
someone
and I
else
have
has
been
their
injured
microphone
our
on.
Hang on
lives.
one
But since
second.
participating in
But
that
anyway,
30-day challenge with Caleb 2 years ago.
So basically, I have a bachelor's in addiction and recovery psychology. I have my full LCDC. I'm getting my master's degree hopefully by the end of this year. I would joke that I would even crawl into the gutter to help people with substance use disorders. And if I get the job I interviewed for yesterday with MetroCare, I'll be doing exactly that. But anyway, I'm a military veteran. I taught military resilience for years. So I just like I'm not licensed as an LPCA yet, but I'm working that direction. Intended population, comorbid mental health, and substance use. So thank you all for your help. It's because my site closed down while I was there for my practicum that I was just like in sort of like in free fall mode, trying to like make sure I got some sort of like compensation, or like not compensation, but like a solution to like make sure I don't like fail out of a class for something that's not my fault. But anyway, I really appreciate everyone being kind and encouraging on email. Sorry for the flurry of emails, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate being able to learn from Dr. Rinn. Thank you so much for that.
Great. Next, we have Wes Bailey.
Yeah, hi, I'm Wes Bailey. I own my own practice in Fort Worth, Texas. It's kind of conveniently located off of University and 30 by TCU and Fort Worth Zoo. So it's kind of a fun little area off the Trinity River. And so I really, really love it. Yeah, and so I see mainly like males, from 12 on up. And I do marriage counseling as well. And so I definitely, it's Christ-centered counseling that ever integrates in the evidence-based kind of things. And so love to be able to work from people from a Christ-centered vantage point, and then bring in things that I'm trained in, like ERP and trauma focused CBT and EMDR. And currently started going through the official like somatic work with those guys at Peter Levine's treatment center, and then also going through Gottman's work for marriage counseling. And so mainly see trauma, anxiety, depression, OCD, marriage, and then also just a host of different issues that men may have, and discipling men in different areas and things of that nature. And so if you have anybody that needs any services and they live in kind of like central Fort Worth, love for you to be able to contact me, and my information will be in the feed for sure.
Great, thank you so much. Next, we have newly published author Tabby Westbrook. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. I'm Tabitha Westbrook. I'm an LMFT supervisor, a LCMHC, which is the North Carolina LPC equivalent. I'm a qualified supervisor here. I'm actually sitting in North Carolina because we did our book launch from my office here because it is the mothership. And I'm also an LPC supervisor in Texas and South Dakota. So I'm licensed in North Carolina, Texas, South Dakota, South Carolina, Florida. I can't remember everywhere else. I'm also a certified sex addiction therapist, and so we will just call me Alphabet Soup for funsies. I'm EMDR certified and improved consultant, trained in developmental trauma brain spotting. If it's the deep end of the pond, that is our favorite. We specialize in domestic abuse and coercive control in the church. I also teach faith-based domestic abuse advocacy. I did just write a book, and it is called Body and Soul, Healed and Whole. It is an invitational guide to healthy sexuality after trauma, abuse, and coercive control. I am not a take two verses and call me in the morning kind of girl. So it is direct. It does not spiritually bypass. It is not going to minimize anybody's pain. And we talk about all the things. Also, I'm the host of the Hey Tabby podcast, where we talk about the hard things out loud with our actual lips. So I might say things out loud that make people blush and are still spiritually accurate, and I am good at hermeneutics. So we break down some of the scriptures that get broken up in bad ways. if you will mark your calendars for June 20th, it is a Friday, 7 p.m. I'm doing a author Q&A and book signing at Barnes & Noble in Flower Mound. So I'll actually be home, which is awesome. So I will drop all of that into the chat, and I am super excited to be here. I always love being able to make these.
Thanks so much, Tabby. So excited for you. Next we have Bernard Chin.
All right. Well, hi everyone. It's good to be here. I'm sorry I missed the presentation. I had a session earlier. But yes, my name is Bernard. I'm an MFT, and I have a private practice with my wife Priscilla. We just moved here to DFW from California about half a year ago. We still have our license there, so we have online California clients. I wanted to highlight three areas today to introduce our work. The first area is team-based couples therapy, meaning that you meet with both of us at the same time, especially for premarital counseling, Christian premarital counseling. Like that's kind of what we want to do more of, especially now that we're here in Texas. In-person is required for couples therapy for us. It's just hard for four people to talk together on video. Our office is in Frisco, where we sublease on 423 in Stonebrook. So on the other side of the tollway. So yeah, we would love to do more of that in person. And the second area is I'm starting to get back into meeting with teens and high schoolers, ninth grade and older. My past career was a tutor, SAT and college application tutoring. Starting to explore that again in a clinical way, especially for Christian families. Like if you've had Christian parents or parents you know at church who had a bad experience in the past with a therapist or a teacher at school, pushing secular progressive worldview on their kids, and they're afraid to seek therapy as a result, I would love to take them on and just kind of put them at ease with the values piece. Other specialties that we have, family systems, so young adults processing their relationship with their parents, career, identity, healthy dating and breakups as young adults, kind of the big areas that we work on. For Priscilla, I wanted to highlight, since she isn't on the Zoom call today, her specialties specifically are trauma, EMDR, and grief and loss. Yep, and then finally, this is an area that I'm starting to explore now that we're here. For the past year for California people, I've been doing exam tutoring for your license and also the ethics exam. In California, it is possible to fail the ethics exam, so people have to study for it. It's very frustrating, not like Texas. So I have been doing tutoring for that, and I'm starting to explore that here in Texas for the national exams for MFTs and LPCs. I'm going to slowly build that up and start to offer tutoring services there, including in-person workshops and lectures. Hopefully I can do that soon here in DFW. But yeah, those are our specialties and kind of what we're working on. And probably the other big area would be related to Asian cultural issues for clients. It ties well with the family systems stuff, immigration issues, trying to communicate with your parents from a different generation or from a different cultural perspective, or cultural integration in your relationship, and that kind of thing. So I'll post our website as well. There's a more detailed list of like the things that we work with. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Next up, Ryan Frey, whose business card was on my desk this morning. Good to have you.
That's awesome. Hey, Ryan Frey. I operate under Breckenridge Counseling in Hurst. I do in person and I also do virtual. I like to work with adults, couples, and I will work with teens, do a lot of family work. And in terms of how I work with people, a lot of it's attachment focused. I use IFS. I'll use EMDR. I'm EMDR trained. But a lot of the deep work, helping people understand why they feel the way they feel, what they actually are feeling, an emotional process, getting to security and safety through healing trauma, a lot of childhood trauma. And that's primarily what I like to do. I will see other things. I have people refer, and a lot of times I get other counselors or other friends go, "Hey, I know you may not have space. I have space." Okay. um, and I love working people in, even if I'm busy. But the goal is for me to graduate people so they're not dependent on me. So I try to do that. And so right now I've graduated some people. So if you got somebody, send them my way. And you guys are great. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. I just gave someone your information this week, so hopefully they'll be reaching out. And next we have Cass.
Hi, my name is Cass Shellhouse. This is my first time being here, and so very excited to be here. I'm an LPC associate at Aspen House Associates up in Richardson. I graduated from DTS last year, and so it's been about a year of being an associate. I'm EMDR trained, DBT trained, and then I'm getting certified in sex therapy. I had notes written down. I do not have diagnosed ADHD, but it's as if I do. Oh yeah, I see teens all the way through adults struggling with anxiety and depression. I also enjoy working with high performance athletes' parents. I coach a middle school dance team, and so I work with a lot of those. And so trauma, grief, church hurt, the whole thing, perfectionism. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
You're welcome. So glad you're here. Next we have Melissa Zarita.
Sorry, I had to figure out how to turn the sound on. I went to a funeral yesterday, so right now I'm exhausted because I went to bed like after midnight. So I will do whatever I can to explain myself. I'm Melissa Zarita. I am a LPC associate. My supervisor is Guy Earl. He's an LPCS. LCDC, MAMFDMIN. I am the owner of Zarita Christian Counseling Company, and I'm in the process of potentially working in other places as well, and other practices as well, in addition to my own. My specialties that I work with would be individuals, couples, families, work with adults. I also work with teens. I like working with anxiety, depression, grief, widows, premarital counseling, and other areas. Some of the areas I have prepare and enriched facilitator certification. I'm in the process of receiving transformational schema therapy basic training. And to kind of summarize that one real quickly, it works with it's an integrated process of using CBT, RABT, NLP, and aspects of EMDR. And I'm also doing a marketing show for my practice tomorrow in Mansfield at Mansfield High School.
Okay, that's awesome. Next we have Alexis iPhone.
Hi, my name is Alexis Mason. I'm a licensed professional counselor associate at Journeys Counseling Ministry in Plano. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Sarah Underbrink, but I'm at her practice. Yeah, no, she's super like immersed in the counseling community, so I feel like a lot of people know her. I specialize in trauma and abuse. I offer trauma-focused CBT. I'm certified in trauma-informed care. Like, I like to say that I love working with female survivors of like fill in the blank. Miscarriage and infertility. Like you said that earlier, and it just like piqued my interest. I was like, oh, okay, remember her information. Trauma and abuse. I also specialize in type 1 diabetes. If you ever have any clients or parents of clients who are recently diagnosed, like keep my information, send them my way. I love working with type 1 diabetics as a type 1 diabetic myself. I work with anxiety, self-esteem, depression. Sorry, my baby is here today, so you might hear him crying in the background. And I work with teens and young adult issues as well. all of my clients right now are teens. So I love working with my teens. Before becoming an LPC associate, I worked with Trinity Broadcasting Center. So I have a lot of experience in like ministry, spirituality, church hurt. And then I also worked at Covenant Eyes. So I heard, sex addiction mentioned a few times. I don't work with the men, but the wives who've like gone through betrayal. Like I have a few years working with Covenant Eyes of like, infidelity, porn addiction, things like that. I work with the wives and the families of people who have, gone through that experience. So yeah, and I also offer a sliding scale. I'm available on OpenPath, so very flexible. If you have a client who just cannot pay very much, like I am open to working with a wide variety of budgets and financial needs.
Great, thanks so much. Next, we have Kelsey Butler.
Hi. So many good referral sources. Everyone sounds so amazing and so experienced. I love that. I'm Kelsey. I just started at Mosaic Way Counseling. They have like a Frisco, a South Lake, and a College Station location. South Lake is the newest, so I'm in the South Lake area. If you guys, have any referrals for or a need for that, I work very passionate about working with middle school, high school, young adults. I also see adults, their families, a lot of anxiety, perfectionism. I am also in EMDR trained, love working with OCD. I also love, we are trauma informed, solution focused, CBT, kind of classic things like that. And then, I work with other things as well, but that's just a little bit about me.
Great, so glad to have you with us. Okay, next I have a couple of you guys that don't have your videos on, so I'm just gonna call your names and you can tell me or unmute if you can speak to us or not. So Erin, are you there? Erin Waldrop, there you are.
I am. That's very convenient because Kelsey is on my team. So I am with Mosaic Way Counseling. And like she mentioned, we do have 3 locations. The beautiful thing about our practice is that we are very focused on trauma, but each of our clinicians have their own niche. Anything from maternal mental health to play therapy to couples and families. We have an ACT counselor, or an ART counselor as well. So that's a really big deal. South Lake is our newest location. We just opened it at the beginning of March. And honestly, our big focus right now is finding referrals for practices that don't do the things that we do. We don't really focus on like eating disorders or substance use. And we always want to make sure to stay in our lane and provide the best possible care. And so if anybody is in the area, whether it's Grapevine, Colleyville, South Lake, we'd love to connect with you guys. Everyone on our team is also EMDR trained. We find that very important with the trauma care that we're wanting to provide. But we do also provide services that aren't trauma needed, whether it's ADHD, anxiety, depression. I love the presentation today because I am ADHD. I do have a clinical diagnosis. My team constantly, when I'm talking with them, I'm just like, hey, bear with me. Let me get my bearings. What did I just say? Let me not lose track of these types of things. So this was just so helpful in regards to the presentation. We are primarily private pay, but our South Lake location, we are in the process of accepting Cigna and Aetna, both with supervisory billing and some with our individual counselors. Kelsey is phenomenal. I can't say enough really great things about her. She also, I don't think she mentioned it, but she has experience with personality disorder. So I know that sometimes can be a hard population. And so she just is Amazing. The other thing that's really unique about our practice is that there's a really great multicultural and diversity aspect of our team. And so we have clinicians that can provide services in Mandarin, Portuguese, Spanish, and Croatian. So if you ever have a need for those services, we have a few clinicians that can provide that as well. So yeah, Erin Waldrop, Mosaic Way Counseling.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, here's Kim. Kim, I see you.
Hi, my name's Kim Garrett. I'm sorry I had my face up the whole time, but I have been on the road. So I'm glad to be with you. I loved the presentation and I definitely learned a lot. I don't think we can ever stop learning. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker and supervisor. I just finished up I think my last LMSW recently. So I'm happy for that. I'm EMDR certified and a consultant, and just finished up a couple of people who wanted to become certified in EMDR. If anyone in this group is interested, I do approach EMDR from a Christian perspective, and that is not always the case in our field. And so, as you all know, and certainly plenty of Christians out there, but I'm a very proud Christian, and that is the framework from which I do supervision for those who want that. I work with complex trauma, a lot of early childhood stuff. I work in Fort Worth at Fort Wellness Counseling. We're near the Bricks on Camp Bowie Boulevard, or near there. And I am a certified clinical trauma professional, and I'm the mental health specialist on a CISM team down in Johnson County. So I'm far south of y'all where I live, but definitely am connected in the Fort Worth area. So that's probably more than y'all want to know about me, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
And now we have Renee Houston.
Hello. I was so glad I was able to kind of slip in on the last portion of the meeting. I was getting my oil changed and it was very sorely needed. So I am Renee Houston, and I am a licensed massage therapist and owner at Reconnect DFW in Denton. I am loving my new office that has windows. I still am so excited about my windows. Like I said, I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I specialize in providing a safe space for survivors to explore their autonomy, practice using their voice. I tell them, boss me around, practice bossing me around. This is a very safe space to do that. We work on reconnecting with the body and just making friends with the body again. All of this, of course, is done with hands-on approach. Hopefully soon to be diagnosed ADHD is getting to me because the chat's rolling. I had somebody ask me the other day, would you say that your work is somatic? And I'm like, well, when you consider the fact that somatic means having to do with the body, everything I do is somatic. And I absolutely love the work that I do. I also am trained and experienced in working with like cancer survivors, domestic violence survivors, survivors of all types. I almost named my business Survivor Massage, but that just sounded weird to me. I am also very excited to say I get to have a mark your calendar thing for the Female Survivors of Violence Conference this year, July 28th and 29th, because I have been invited to present again. And this time I'm going to be speaking, focusing primarily on trauma touch therapy, which is another service that I offer in my practice. And I've heard a lot of people in here that I would love to connect with. I'm like, I gotta write down all the names. But I am actively seeking new clients to populate my time here in my lovely window full office here in Denton. And I am also very excited. I love just scheduling one-on-ones and talking with individuals about what you do and what I do and how we can work together to benefit all of our clients. Because touch is a basic human need and safe touch is a basic human right.
I always love that you end with that. It's so good. Thank you for that. Okay, and then Cynthia Eddings, are you where you can unmute and introduce yourself? I see.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. My name is Cynthia Eddings, and I am an LMFTA. And in person, I work at Fort Worth Counseling and Intervention. I also have my own private practice, which is virtual, and it's called MFT for the Soul. I absolutely love working with couples, families, of course, with a Christian perspective for those that request it, as well as infidelity and betrayal, loss, grief, pregnancy loss, and grief. Military, I am former military myself, Air Force, and something else that I absolutely love, and it's called AO Scan. I don't know if anyone has heard of it, but I'm really trying to get that information out there to the world because I do feel like if you're a practitioner or even just an individual, it's something that can be utilized in every home. Is an educational tool that helps to balance out individuals' harmonics. They use frequencies, and I know we introduced Albert Einstein. The technology is based off of Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla because everything is energy. So it's frequency based, bioresonance, but it helps individuals return to homeostasis, especially with their emotions. So it's very good for counselors to use. But it has so many different aspects, like 10 or 11 different modules that energy, frequency, personalized frequencies, personalized reports, AO Mind Sync, which is something that helps individuals with their affirmations and hearing themselves affirm themselves and realign their thought processes. But yes, those are like my bases, and I look forward. And of course, if anybody is interested in like what is that and they don't have a clue, they can go to my website at www.mftforthesoul.com. Check that out. And also you can book a free consultation. And I would love to do an overview as well as give you a free report so you can actually see what it is because it literally speaks to the soul. So thank you so much.
So cool. Thank you for that. Be sure to put all of that in the group, the Facebook group as well. If you haven't already, also put it in the chat. And
yes,
you can
ma'am.
save the chat by tapping on those little 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of the chat box. So here that I haven't missed anybody here. I think I caught everybody. Okay, yes, I think I did. Did anyone have anything that you forgot to say? Some additional something that you would like to unmute to say? We have some time for that, so I'm just looking at everybody's screens. Feel free.
I put mine in the chat, but I forgot to mention I'm very passionate about working with teens with ADHD and autism with level 1 support needs. Love the presentation, by the way. So I always like to add that in. I don't do ABA, but if they're looking for social skills, self-worth, things like that, wanted to add that in there too.
Great. Okay, and I see a few people with hand raised. Lori?
Oh, not on a business part, but just wanted to invite everyone this Sunday that at our church, at Legacy Church of Christ, that we're doing a Easter thing. So I'm part of the Legacy Singers, and we'll be singing in that event. And we're going to pray that I don't get laryngitis this time, unlike the Christmas concert.
Bernard?
Okay, yes, thank you. I wanted to also mention for young adult clients, in terms of the career stuff that I mentioned, I really enjoy working with entrepreneurs, business owners, or anything related to like financial upbringing with your family background, financial values, money mindset, like what you want to do with that. Not in a planning way, like I'm not a financial advisor, but just to process emotionally your relationship with money and how you want to live with that. And then with couples, of course, we will work with you on, like how did you grow up with money? What did your parents teach you? And then as a couple, like the choices that you want to make, what you want to value. And then of course, for couples, we're self-employed ourselves, couples, self-employed couples, business owner couples, all those kinds of issues.
Okay.
Oh, did you say my name?
I did.
Oh, sorry. My thing just the volume lowered all of a sudden. No, I totally forgot to mention, what I work with. But I work primarily with grief and loss, life transitions, anxiety and depression. I'm IFS informed and still going through the training for that right now. I am a certified neuroscience informed clinician, and my husband and I pastored for 40 years. Just retired from full-time pastoring in July of 2023, but we're both still ordained pastors. So, yeah, and a SYMBIS certified premarital.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And for everyone too, be sure to at any point when you have some time, if you're not on social media a lot, dip into that Facebook group and just scroll some of those posts, because a lot of things you guys are saying, I'm like, oh, I saw someone asking about a pastor or something, someone that has pastoral, background and things. So a lot of good opportunity to get referrals and stuff there. Okay, Francisca, I see that you've joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh my, okay. I didn't realize I was muted. I'm sorry. So hi everybody. My name is Francisca. I think I'm the only one here. I'm a prescriber. I'm a certified psychiatric nurse practitioner, mental health nurse practitioner. I'm also certified as a family nurse practitioner, and I have my own practice. It's mostly telehealth, but in the Dallas area, we do in person if the client is in the Dallas area. We see children to older adults, and we see them for depression, anxiety, ADHD, PTSD, and other mental health conditions. We are in with most insurances. If you are in doubt, ask or reach out. We might be in network with them. And we are currently accepting new patients. We also have the ability to see clients in other states. We are licensed in Washington, Colorado, Virginia, Oklahoma, Oregon, and here in Texas. So in case you have any client that need our help in those areas, we are able to help, and we try to get the clients in within a week. So if you have any questions, anything you feel like I missed, I'll be glad to answer. And the name of our practice, Access Healthcare Providers.
Thank you so much. Be sure to put your contact information in the chat. And also I dropped again the link to digitally sign in. So I'm going to take that spreadsheet and send to everyone, so everyone will have everyone's contact info who was actually here today. Because sometimes that's helpful when you're like, I know they came to that meeting. Who were they? Dr. Pam?
Hi, since we were talking about ages that we work with, I reach all the way down with executive function testing to 3s. There's a preschool assessment, and then you have the older. So from 3 to 103, we can do executive functioning kind of resources for them.
And do you do the screenings for kids and adults? That's something I didn't ask you earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. I know I've had some adults that have asked for, they're calling it like ADHD coaching, things like that. Is that something that falls under what you do?
Yes. The ADHD coaching, when we do the assessment, we get all these nice little data points out there, and we're nerding out over all that kind of thing. It's the, so what now what? So now that we know, what do we do? So I help them with this is what we can do. So that is coaching, that's mentoring, that's getting them connected to another community where they can, talk together and share resources. Because it's hard being out there all by yourself.
Yeah, and something I didn't ask you earlier, just in terms of the assessments that you do for ADD, ADHD, is this like questionnaires? Is it like just like a conversational interview? How does that actually work for someone?
Yes, and there's lots of, at the beginning of the talk, there were multiple contexts. So there are questionnaires that go out to different people who can provide information. And then we drag all that information together, aggregate it, and then we graph it out to see which areas are spiking. And we rule out anxiety, depression. We have indicators for autism, things like that. And like I said, if all the boxes aren't ticked for a classical diagnosis, especially with our youngies, our little ones, it's developmentally, it's not appropriate for them to, have that kind of diagnosis. But we do have ways to help and support the families to support them.
Other final thoughts, comments, information, or questions for Dr. Pam or anyone else?
You guys are absolutely fantastic. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I always learn so much from you guys.
I'm so glad that you took your time to share with us as well. And I'll be sending a follow-up email within the week for all the things that we talked about today, including the chat, which you can save yourself, but I'll also include that in the email to everybody, and hope that we'll get to see as many of you as possible in Denton next month, second Friday on the 9th. And I'd love to just close us with a little prayer here for everyone. And also just hoping everyone has a great Easter and Resurrection Sunday as you're all celebrating in whatever way you do. So let's just close us in prayer together. Lord, we just pause here, just acknowledging that you have created each person that has been on this call today, those that have gone on to appointments and other trainings. We ask just for your wisdom over them, even in this very moment, that you would give them words to speak, ears to hear, being able to minister to the needs of the people that you've brought across their path. We ask that for those here as well, that you have uniquely gifted and created in your image to minister to people, to bring hope. And so we ask that there would just be a real sense of that and the work that they do next week, even those that may still have work to do in the days that come today and over the weekend. We also just ask that you would just give us a sense of stillness and pause around just even this season, this liturgical season, even of just acknowledging the resurrection, the importance of that, and that just being just the crux of our faith. And so we are just so grateful to you for Christ, for his saving work on the cross to unite us all here as brothers and sisters in Christ, to be the hands and feet of Christ in the world to those who are in great need, bringing light into the darkness. And we thank you that you are a God who shines into the darkness, and that to you the darkness is as bright as day, that you see straight through all the things. And so we just ask that for those who are struggling, who are weary in the work that they're doing, and looking even for referrals and counselees, and those who are just struggling in the midst of that work in their families and their personal lives, we pray just a special grace over them, and that you would just minister to them. You as the Prince of Peace would meet them in those places, that they would just feel seen and heard and known by you, who is a God who sees and hears. And we just thank you for Christ and his uniting and saving power that has brought us all together and continues to just empower us to do the work that you've called us to do. And we pray these things in his name. Amen. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next month and in between online. Have a great weekend. Bye. Happy Easter.